Welcome back to ADA Network State, the best place to find out the latest happening from across the Cardano ecosystem and the wider crypto space. Now let's get started. Today we have a whole range of stuff to cover. We're going to begin with a macroeconomics update, look at the reverse carry trade and what actually came out of Japan last week, and a bit of speculation on what could happen next. We'll take a look across the Cardano ecosystem at the Chang hard fork status and some of the speakers attending Rare Evo, amongst much more. From a Cardano project standpoint, we're going to dive into various new things that have been announced across the ecosystem. And across the wider crypto ecosystem, we're going to have a look at what's been going on in US politics, and specifically the Harris campaign, Russia and mining, Bitcoin becoming legal, and also a ruling on the XRP SEC case. As we discussed in our last video, we looked at the possibility of the yen carry trade blowing up, and pretty much straight after that was published, it did. Stock markets crashed worldwide following the Bank of Japan recently raising interest rates, ending its ultra low rate policy. For years, investors borrowed at these low rates to leverage investments in other currencies, especially the US dollar. And as Japan raised rates while other countries were cutting them, the yen started to strengthen, and this forced margin calls around the world on these trades, leading to a massive sell-off in equities, which was the driver for the big stock market crash. Now, you'll have noticed that that's actually reversed in the sort of 5-6 days following. We'll talk a little bit more about that and Michael Djed's view on what's going on. But that aside, the Fed faces a tough dilemma. They can choose to cut rates aggressively in the following months, but that could worsen the yen carry trade unwinding, potentially crashing markets again and risking the resurgence of inflation. Alternatively, if they don't cut rates, recession fears will grow, with rising unemployment already at that 3-year high. Now, the Fed's got to choose between market inflation and instability or a possible recession. So even with the right choice, whatever that is, a recession might still not be avoidable. So it's going to be a bit of a bumpy road ahead. A quick look at what Michael Djed has to say about all this. So Michael Djed was the guy who predicted or has been talking to the reverse carry trade for some time now. Now, he says, he's of the opinion now that the thing to watch isn't necessarily Japan, although, this is going to potentially continue as Japan raises rates and the US reduces rates and provides stimulus. This could exacerbate the reverse carry trade further. But really the thing to watch out for from his perspective is junk debt or high yield bonds. And these are bonds that offer higher interest rates due to the high risk of default associated with them. These bonds are typically issued by companies or entities that have a lower credit rating, and they're much more high risk, high return asset. Now, when there's a market sell-off that can occur from something like the spark, as Michael Djed puts it, is the Japan carry trade, then these high yield bonds, or junk debt as they're also known, are particularly vulnerable in a sell-off because they're issued by companies with those lower credit ratings, making them riskier. And investors will tend to move away from those riskier assets to safer investments, and that can lead to a sharp decline in these high yield bonds. And this ultimately, he believes, is going to be the cause of a major credit event triggered by the reverse carry trade. So something to keep an eye on. Jumping straight into pooltool.io, where we can see the status of the network in regards to Chang. We are at 73% of nodes reporting version 9.1, and that's the node version that is required to upgrade to Chang. Importantly, the block production via node 9.1 is currently at 65% over the course of the last day. Now, when that number gets up to 70%, from a network perspective, we'll be able to instigate the Chang hard fork. There's a few other dependencies which I'll go into in a second, but we are so close to running Chang. In addition to the block production from the SPOs having upgraded to version 9.1, reaching 70%, we also need the exchanges supporting Cardano to upgrade to version 9.1 as well before we can trigger the hard fork. Now, I think we need 70% of the liquidity as well on the exchanges to cross over to version 9.1 before the hard fork gets triggered. Now, what you can see here on Cardano Explorer is the biggest exchanges that hold ADA or provide ADA liquidity, and list the token here. So you can see Binance at 15%. You've got Coinbase down here at 3%. And there's a status here. So in progress, not started, and ready. So you can see that Binance is in progress. There's a few other big ones here which have not started. Coinbase is in progress. We've got to scroll down to Bitfinex before we get to the 1% that is ready here so far. There's a couple of pages here, but look, in progress. So I think this is the next thing to keep an eye on, in addition to the block production percentage from the SPOs as well. Onto Rare Evo. This is a blockchain conference focused on Cardano coming up next weekend. It's in Las Vegas. A lot of announcements going to be coming out there. But this one I didn't see coming. This is Robert Kennedy, RFK, coming on stage with Charles Hoskinson on Saturday, August the 17th, for a fireside chat. I can't wait to watch this. Having a presidential candidate up there with Charles talking crypto, most likely, in front of everyone is incredible. Can't wait. Just a quick one. Charles is back in Colorado after his travels across South America and Central America. He jumped onto an AMA yesterday. Worth a listen. I won't go into it here, but it's there if you have the time. Here's a fun one. We've been following the BitPanda polling over the course of the last few weeks, where BitPanda have put various different cryptos together in a knockout competition. And as a surprise to no one, Cardano has done extremely well. So recently we got to the final, and Ethereum themselves also made it to the final. And over the last day, I believe, the final poll has come out. Choose your winner now, Cardano or Ethereum. And surprise, surprise, Cardano has won it now with 84.8% of the votes. So good job, everyone. I want to point out an interesting interaction between Dave and Ada Whale on X recently. The topic is around the longer-term sustainability of SPOs. Dave highlights that the design reduction in monetary expansion in Cardano leads to lower SPO rewards over time. And while this is deliberate and appreciated, he points out that the transaction fees need to increase to compensate for these reductions. Now, currently, transaction fees generated don't always meet the expectations, raising sustainability concerns. And he points out this example here from Epoch 292 and comparing it to Epoch 500, which is a recent Epoch. So in 292, the rewards were 15.4 million ADA, with transaction fees being about 94,000 ADA. And more recently, the rewards in Epoch 500, the rewards were 9 million ADA with transaction fees at 67,000 ADA. So a reduction in both counts. And Dave's wondering if there's, what needs to be addressed here, or if anything can be addressed through governance to mitigate this. Now, Ada Whale has come in with a number of good, well thought through responses. So it starts off with, just ways that this might not be a problem, or things to think about anyway. So first of all, partner chains and decentralization as a service. Now, this is things like Midnight and others that are building, where essentially those partner chains will end up having to pay in some form a fee to the SPOs, which may be passed on to the stakers, but I think that's yet to be seen. We've talked about that two token model in Midnight. Details still a bit cloudy there, but what is going to happen is that they are going to have to pay a service fee to the SPOs for providing decentralization as a service as you bootstrap your new sort of partner chain. So that's an income stream that's coming for the SPOs potentially. Secondly, there is obviously we expect transaction growth to continue, especially as we come into the next bull cycle. So it's probably not fair comparing Epic 292 to 500. Now 292 I think was high up in the previous bull run, so a lot more activity on chain at that point. So maybe not the fairest comparison. We might want to sort of look forward to the future and sort of compare like for like sort of bull run transactions. So we'd expect the transaction fees to increase in the next bull cycle anyway. Now, another interesting point is as more dApps start launching on Cardano, there's more trading bots. There's, I guess, the proliferation of DEXs that'll drive transaction volume up, boosting fees. Now, additionally, these DEXs and these apps are probably going to want to run their own stake pool anyway. It's part of their offering. I mean, it's easy to. With these dApps, you have integrated staking mechanisms, like for example with Indigo, with Liquid. That's all part of the application. So there's a driver there, motivation for dApps to be affiliated with SPOs or even run their own staking pools themselves. So that might just be a reason why these SPOs don't disappear, right? Even if they run at a loss. I guess you've also got price increases. So as we all hope, as Cardano enters the next bull run, the price of ADA will increase, and as such, it'll drive more sort of transaction charge sort of value to the SPOs. So even though the amount of ADA is reducing in the fees, the actual value of that to the SPOs may very well increase, keeping them profitable and sustainable. And finally, we do have a backup. We've got our sovereign wealth fund, our treasury, and I think Ada Whale actually added this here as a final sort of bolt on to his response. That treasury can be used for whatever we want, right? And so if we do find ourselves in a situation where declining rewards are making SPOs sort of go under, then we can always choose to top that up, those rewards with the treasury. It's essentially like a delayed emissions there. Now we can use the treasury for many things. It doesn't have to just be SPO sustainability, but it's another very valid thing to think about. So really interesting interaction. I don't think it's a concern at the moment, but it's just good to be aware of all these things, that these discussions going on, and certainly long-term SPO sustainability is something we all want, because it maximizes decentralization. And if you don't have decentralization, then you don't have a blockchain. First up on the Cardano projects, we have SmartPlaces. Now, we've spoken about SmartPlaces before, but just as a reminder, it's a SocialFi app, kind of like a Twitter or a Facebook in some regards, where you're able to post and interact with your local community and post from your local community. There's an underlying sort of map of the world where you can gain rights to land parcels, where businesses are posting or events are taking place and so on. So we don't know all the details how it's going to work yet. I'm excited to see it. The news really is that next weekend at Rare Evo, they are going to launch their mobile application. So we will dive into that a bit more detail later on. Excited to see how this grows. Next, we have AnetaBTC. So AnetaBTC is a Bitcoin Cardano bridge. We have spoken about these guys before. They're about to release their V2 protocol, which is an upgrade on what they have already. As I understand it, it's a much more decentralized and automated approach to how they've constructed this bridge. So there's a lot of excitement for this, and I will certainly be following this upon launch. Unfortunately, we have some disappointing news from Pavia. So Pavia was the original metaverse project to announce itself on Cardano 2.5 or 3 years ago. They unfortunately have run out of runway and have had to pause, at least for now, if not stop entirely, development. Pavia was named after the Italian town of Pavia, where Girolamo Cardano was born and lived in the 1500s. Obviously, Cardano blockchain itself is named after that very man. So this is a disappointment. There's a lot of people who are excited for Pavia. They have released a statement essentially saying that what I've just said, they've run out of money and funding to continue the development, but they are looking for merger and acquisition partners to potentially take over and work with them on the project. So hopefully this isn't the last of it, but at least for now it is a paused project. And a quick update from Strike Finance. They have launched their public testnet, so you can go ahead and check that out if you like. There's certainly a good amount of excitement in anticipation of this one's launch. And in addition, Strike Finance have also announced that all of their smart contracts are now open sourced. So good stuff. Djed version 1.2 has launched on the Cardano mainnet. It introduces several key upgrades that enhance its functionality and user experience. One major improvement is the introduction of a dynamic base fee model, which adjusts fees based on the protocol's ratio of the ADA backing collateral to the Djed minted. So it's that 400 to 800% range ratio. This could make transactions more cost effective and responsive to the market conditions and where that ratio sort of sits. Additionally, lowered mint and burn minimums are now live, so smaller investors can participate with just 50 ADA. It used to be 200 ADA as the minimum. So that increases accessibility. And the shift to a percentage-based operator fee provides a more flexible and equitable cost structure for transactions. Final upgrade was migrating to Plutus V2, which is going to enhance interoperability, reducing transaction costs as well, and improve security. So this is all in all making the Djed protocol more efficient and developer friendly. So I'm excited to see how Djed, the algorithmic stablecoin on Cardano, powered by Coty, continues to grow. Some big news coming out of US politics. The Democratic Party have done a 180 and are now pro-crypto. So you can see from the headline here from Fox Business, Democrats launch Crypto for Harris campaign to counter Trump's industry appeal. So this is significant. We talked previously about some senators and members of the Democrat Party writing to the DNC urging for a shift in crypto policy, and it looks like this has now happened. So there are now 3 presidential candidates, Trump, RFK, and Harris, seemingly now all pro-crypto. So this is really good for the industry. Next thing they'll be starting to debate about, they're trying to outdo each other in crypto policies, whether that's, minimizing or removing capital gains tax, et cetera, et cetera. So, excited to keep following this. Watch what they do, not what they say as well, is something to keep in mind, but all positive signs coming out of US politics now. As of the 7th of August last week, Morgan Stanley is able to now offer Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. So this is significant. I believe there are 15,000 asset managers working for Morgan Stanley, and this ability for them now to sort of call up their clients and start offering the ETFs and encouraging their clients to make Bitcoin a fraction of their portfolio is really significant. There's a lot of selling power that's going to hit that ETF market for Bitcoin. So I think this is good for the industry. It normalizes crypto, normalizes Bitcoin, and I think it's only positive. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a law legalizing the mining of cryptocurrency in Russia. This was made illegal in 2022, but has now been reversed, or will be reversed, I believe, come the 1st of November. So this is good for the crypto industry. I think this is just part of the whole sort of game theory of nation states all sort of playing out bit by bit. The courts have ruled in the SEC Ripple case and ordered for Ripple Labs to pay $125 million in civil penalties to the SEC, officially ending the SEC's lawsuit and concluding that XRP is not a security. Brad Garlinghouse, who founded Ripple Labs, says much the same thing. The SEC asked for $2 billion. The court rejected their demand and reduced it by 94%, recognizing that the SEC had overplayed its hand. It's a big victory for Ripple, for XRP, and for crypto in general. And finally, Two companies have announced that they are either about to buy Bitcoin or have already bought Bitcoin to add to their balance sheet, following in the steps of Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. These companies are Semler Scientific, which has purchased an additional 101 Bitcoin for $6 million, and the second being Metaplanet, which plans to raise 10.1 billion yen to buy more Bitcoin. Thank you once again for watching ADA Network State. If you did enjoy this video, then please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, and see you next time.